Hi, good evening. How are you doing? Welcome to my daily live session on various tools and methods from my toolkit for execution excellence. My name is Dinakar. I am the founder of Samutana and the inventor of Duhop. With that very brief introduction, let me directly dive into what I explained yesterday, which was about the EFQM model. EFQM model, I said, is a model based on the good practices and the practices in those companies which have been thriving very well for the last decades or centuries, even. And there three aspects are addressed. One is the results which are delivered to the stakeholders as a continual continually improving value creation, and for that, two enablers, which are the direction and the execution. And this basically consists of various criteria which are visible in these companies as a kind of a reference for all the other companies to, what should I say, use as a guide for achieving excellence and continuing to thrive for decades or even centuries. And then I also mentioned that there are various awards which are given based on the assessment done using the excellence model, and this is prevalent in all the countries. I'm sure you would have thought of it. And with the new revised EFQM excellence model, which I presented yesterday, I also mentioned that it is extremely, what should I say, close to the reality. And any manager can understand this excellence model much better than the earlier ones, which were, in my opinion, to some extent abstract and was to a great extent academic in nature. Whereas this is extremely down to earth, extremely practical, extremely applicable from day one. And that's the brief recap of what I did yesterday. And today's topic would be a little different. So, as I had mentioned yesterday, today I'll be speaking about the planning quadrants. So, let me now first increase the size of the screen so that you can see it quite well. Now, what is this planning quadrant all about? All of us have problem with time. Everybody have only 24 hours, and this is an interesting calculation. Just follow me. All of us have 24 hours, right? Every day has only 24 hours. It's not possible that in uh, somewhere in Slovakia you have got 26 hours, and somewhere in India you've got only 23 hours. That doesn't exist. Everywhere in the world, it's just 24 hours. Now, follow me to really appreciate some interesting aspect of these 24 hours. Out of 24 hours, we are more or less sleeping 8 hours. That means 8 hours is gone for sleep, rest. So left is 16 hours. And in these 16 hours, if we calculate the commute up and down to the work and various daily chores that we have to do, daily routines that we have to do, be it brushing the teeth or taking care of our hygiene and ensuring that we are having some kind of an entertainment, talking to people, all that would possibly constitute another 8 hours approximately. Eating, then drinking, going to the toilet, various these things which are physical needs, psychological needs. These are all things which are not avoidable. Therefore, that would possibly take about 8 hours of time. Then we are left with 8 hours, and these 8 hours is the time when which we can really use. Of course, we can reduce the 8 hours. I remember Three Idiots, where Virus, who is the principal in Three Idiots movie. If any of you have not watched it, please do that. It's a great movie. And in that, Virus, who's the principal, gets his shaved, gets his afternoon nap. And when he's taking the nap, he gets somebody to shave his beard. And during that time, he also takes the opportunity to listen to music. So it's like combining three in one. So all that is possible to ensure that the 8 hours of personal hygiene and personal activities come down. But still, maybe the working time of 8 hours can get extended to about 10 hours or 12 hours, maybe the worst case 14 hours, but that's it. Beyond that, it's not possible because we still have to do some basic activities which cannot be avoided at all. So let us say all of us have the same amount of time. Some of us who are possibly more focused and more workaholic, like many a times I used to be a workaholic, really a workaholic, and some weeks I've worked almost 16 hours a day. So that is something which can be done only for some time. It cannot be done for lifelong. Lifelong, I think 8 hours would be a good amount of what should I say, focused effort with a good work-life balance, and both are equally required, right? We have to do shopping, we have to go eat. So all these things are considered in the other 8 hours. 8 hours for sleeping, 8 hours for doing all the other chores, and 8 hours for working. So if you look at it, these 8 hours are the most important 8 hours which we have during our entire life during the working time. That means during our working age, we may be starting at about 23, 22, 23 years old till about 60 years old, and maybe even later. And that is the time which we have, and everybody has the same time. So how do you ensure that during this time you're able to get the best outcome, best result out of that, best what should I say, leverage out of this time, is what this planning quadrant is all about. On the y-axis, you've got two basically extreme situations, tasks and jobs which you are doing during those 8 hours, which are important or not important. Both are possible, right? Something could be important, something could be not important. Then on the x-axis, we have got two extremes. One is urgent, one is not urgent. Others could be in the middle. Now we look at the extremes, which is not important, important, urgent, and not urgent. So first, let me ask you, how do you think you differentiate something which is important or not important? It's a very simple activity. I did this when I read the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, a very, very good book, a very outstanding book, a bestseller by Stephen Covey. If you have not read that, please do that. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey, which is a very, very popular book. You can get it everywhere. You can also get it as an audio book. And there he talks about what is called as the deathbed exercise. I'm not sure whether you've tried doing that. And some of you, if you have done that, kudos to you. Otherwise, those who have not done that, you can try doing the deathbed exercise. Imagine that you are dead. Again, quite shocking. When I read it for the first time, it was quite shocking to me. And then I stopped the book. I didn't read the book at all. That really was quite a strange experience for me. And after that, I read back the book maybe after about a couple of years, when I said that now I need to go through the book, irrespective of whatever that was said in the book. Therefore, I went on to read it. And fantastic book, very well written. So there, this deathbed exercise is the following. Imagine that you are dead and all your relatives, friends, family, everybody is standing around your deathbed, and then they're talking about you. Generally, that happens, right? When we go to somebody's funeral or somebody who's dead, we want to really see them off. Then generally, there are a lot of people mourning and a lot of people talking about this person. And imagine that you are lying there on the deathbed and people surrounding you, or your funeral. And what do you expect the various relatives, friends, bosses, subordinates, neighbors to talk about you? That is the deathbed exercise. So when you write down that, then you come up with various topics, because all of us have only one life. Of course, we need to earn money, we need to really make a life, make a living. All that is definitely necessary. But at the same time, there are a lot of important things that we need to do, because we had the opportunity to be living on this planet Earth, which is a big boon to all of us, isn't it? We came here to really experience the life the way it is. And after this, God only knows what will happen to us, whether we get back to the central energy source, as I believe and my imagination is, or maybe do something. I really don't know what happens to us. And let's not worry about that. We are living now, so let's see how we can make the best use of what we are doing now. So if I want really to be, I want really all these people who are sitting and crying and mourning and feeling sad about my demise, I want them to be talking about something. Is it not right that in your life you spend the maximum amount of time doing that? Is that not important to you? Because that is what you want to leave behind as a legacy. So that's the deathbed exercise. By doing the deathbed exercise, you come to know what is important and what is not important to you. Of course, maybe I should. Somebody is talking about this guy having brought up his family very, very, very nicely, and maybe he has ensured that his children are very well educated, or maybe he has ensured that he had a lot of friends. If a lot of friends are there, then wouldn't it make sense in considering friends is important in your life? If suppose your deathbed exercise revealed that you wanted everybody to talking about you having brought up your children very well, would it not be important that people you would be focusing on your kids when you are working during those 8 hours? I'm talking about the 8 hours now. From the deathbed exercise, come to the 8 hours. Or let us say if somebody has to talk about you taking care of your parents, wouldn't that be important to you? Of course, job is important, nothing wrong at all. So the important and not important basically is differentiated by that. That means important is something which directly relates or indirectly relates to your deathbed exercise wishes, and not important is something which doesn't relate to that deathbed exercise wishes. That is the first aspect. Important, not important. Then the next is, what is urgent and not urgent? Urgent and not urgent is very simple. Urgent is something, if you don't do, then it becomes a disaster. Urgent is something, if you don't do, then the fire will get lit up. Urgent is something, if you don't do, then the entire thing gets burnt. Not urgent is something which is not that important, not that urgent, because even if you don't do it today, that particular situation would not change in the next couple of days. For example, right now there is the farmers' protest going on in Delhi. Let me take that example and use that for urgent and not urgent. Of course, it is urgent to discuss with them. Everything is very clear. They have to it has to be sorted out. Now, let us say you don't do it today, you do it tomorrow. You take one day, stay cool. I don't think any situation will really change so drastically that something will explode, right? At the same time, imagine a situation where you are caught in a meeting, and at the same time your wife calls you that or your husband calls you that, look, I have lost my key and I'm standing outside and it's quite scary late night, and I don't know what to do, and you have the key with you. And at that moment, going back home to give the key to your spouse, to your husband or wife, how urgent is it? Is it urgent or not urgent, irrespective of whatever be the situation? Or let us say there is a news which says that hurricane is going to come to your location or to your place. Cyclone is expected, and then you're not prepared. You are still building your house, or maybe your roof was leaking and then your windows are not fully repaired. Do you need to repair them now at that moment or not? That is urgent and not urgent. Those are the examples which I can think of for urgency and not urgency. So now you have understood what is urgent, what is not urgent, and I'm sure you would have understood what is important and not important from the deathbed exercise. So with these two information being available, the best thing to do is take some time off, especially on a weekend. Early mornings are better. You will get up in the morning, not much pressure, not much stress out on that day. You may take about 2 hours off. And this activity, you better do it alone, because it's something which is totally personal. You can't really involve anybody to help you out in this. It has to be done alone, where you try to write down all the activities which you do, whatever tasks you are doing, whatever way you spend the last week. Remember that and try to make a note of that. And then after that, put them into these 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is something which is urgent and important. You'll come to know that intuitively. It will not be difficult at all once you write down what kind of tasks you did. For example, I went and had a chat with my friend. I went and participated in a meeting. I drove all the way to visit a customer. It could be anything. Or I've traveled all the way to Mandya, or I traveled all the way to maybe Mangalore. I traveled all the way to Sao Paulo to meet somebody in Brazil, or whatever that you did. Or maybe I attended a meeting. I sat in the meeting for 4 hours. Whatever you did, try to write it down, and after that, try to put it into these four quadrants. What you did, was it important to you in your deathbed exercise, which comes in the top 2 quadrants? And then, is it urgent or not urgent? How do you find out whether it is urgent or not urgent? Imagine that you had not done that particular activity at that particular moment. Would the situation have worsened? If the situation has worsened, then it is urgent. If the situation would have worsened, then it is urgent. If the situation would not have worsened, then it is not urgent. As simple as that. So you got the idea. And important and not important relates to your deathbed exercise. Once you have done that, then put all your tasks in the 4 quadrants. That is quadrant 1, which is urgent and important. Quadrant 2, which is not urgent but important. Quadrant 3, urgent but not important. Quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important. So what do you do now? It's a very simple strategy. Is very, very simple. Whatever that is urgent and important, do it immediately. There is no point in waiting. That you can't avoid. You have to do it. Now, the fun thing is, if you keep only doing that, then always it will be urgent and important. So you need to really look at what is not urgent but important. That is the place where you can really start making sure that you get more and more time for yourself. Whatever that is not urgent and important, plan it out. Plan it out and make sure that you realize that plan. This is best done on a weekly basis. Once in a week, on a Sunday, I have a weekly planner which I had evolved, which I used to use it quite regularly. Now, since I'm in the role of a consultant and coach, my time is not that crucial. I'm always available. Please write to me. My email is dinakar@samutana.com. I'll be more than happy to answer your queries. I'm always available. So whereas when I was in the executive role, I would have a huge challenge. I told you there were weeks when I've done 16 hours a day. So there, it is important for me to make sure that I have made plan for that topic, which is not urgent but important in my own understanding of my deathbed exercise. So that is the next quadrant, and the third quadrant is urgent but not important. Very urgent things, but you're not. It's not important to you. So what do you do in that case? Delegate it, because delegation is again art. I'll possibly talk about that tool on some other day. There are 4 levels of delegation, which I'll speak to you and explain to you on some other occasion as a tool. But in this case, you need to delegate it, because you doing it personally will be nice to have. It will be extremely nice. I remember once a manager telling me that, look, I went, I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, a very senior guy in a company, got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, called up my secretary, got her to book an air ticket, and then put my guy who was in the supply chain department on the plane. He went all the way to Chennai. I was following up continuously. Then he went to the Chennai, spoke to the vendor. Vendor gave the parts, and dispatcher picks up the parts, comes back to the airport. And I personally went to the airport, picked him up in the airport, and brought the week. I said that is something which he did, right? I said, what the hell are you? You're a general manager in the organization. Why the hell did you come to a situation like that you have to do something like that? It's possibly something which is urgent, but I'm not sure how important it is. If it is urgent and important, he has to do it himself. Otherwise, possibly delegate it to somebody. That is something which is very, very important, to delegate something which is not important but urgent. There are a lot of things like that which keep happening. Urgent but not important, delegate it. I'll tell you one simple example. I used to, when I was the head of a BU and head of a plant, I used to continuously keep getting calls from the customers, all levels. I'm a chap who is quite accessible. Anybody can call. I have till now never have rejected a call. I've always answered any phone call, or whoever it be. And if I have not been able to answer, I've always returned a phone call. Therefore, people would call me, because many of my team members would not receive the call at all. So then what used to happen was they would call me for each and everything. So I was very clear, depending on what the job is, I would tell them that, look, you need to talk to this guy. And then I call him up and tell him that, look, this chap is calling you up, and why the hell are you not picking the phone? Pick up the phone and call him up and then sort it out. And that would happen multiple times, and people got the hang of it. And I would not take over their authority at all. Very simple. Whenever a customer would ask me to give any commitments, I would only tell that, look, I'll look into it and get back to you. But who would get back to the customer? The guy who's supposed to give the commitment, not me. I've never gone and told any commitment to any customer, because the guy who's supposed to give the commitment should have done it. He has not done it. Therefore, it got escalated to me. Moment I start doing it myself, it's very, very, very exciting, right? Then it becomes my job. Next time, you'll only call me up. So since the guy who had to give a commitment called him up and then gave the commitment, then he will be the one who's accountable. He's the one who has the authority. Many times the customers have come to me asking for more volume or some quality issue or whatever it is. I will listen to them. And then I've called this guy who does the customer order planning and told him that, look, you give the commitment, and you will also please make sure that there is some buffer. Buffer is again very, very important. Murphy is always there. So plan a buffer and give the commitment, and I'm going to stand behind you. And that is something which is very, very important. I didn't do that job myself. That's delegation. So you delegate what is important, urgent but not important to you. That is very, very essential. And the fourth quadrant, which is not urgent and not important, and this is the place where we have got a lot of time, lot of what should I say, opportunity for us to really eliminate that. Stop doing it. Because there is no point in continuing to do that, because it doesn't really add any value. Maybe a time will come when you can do that, because you don't have any other thing to do. Then start doing that. When you are really busy, overloaded, then stop doing those things which are neither urgent nor important. That is what the 4 planning quadrants is. I believe it will be of some use to you. And if you get benefited from these 4 quadrants, please do write to me. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I already shared my email. And before I leave, as usual, I would like to give you a peek on what I'm going to be talking tomorrow, which is all about the Z model. I don't know whether you heard of that. Z model is something similar to excellence model, but it's a totally Indian model. I'll talk about that tomorrow. And with that, I come to the end of today's live presentation. And before I go, let me just request you to register yourself for the Do How program this Sunday. I'll be conducting the Do How program for everyone. Whoever wants to come can join. And it's an experiential session on leadership and management. And definitely the issue of time management and issue of the planning quadrant may come up there, because Do How has a lot of contextual hints which come up at random. So please do come over there and then enjoy the Do How session. It will be a very, very intense participation. So don't think that it's a webinar where I'm going to listen to somebody like what I'm doing now. It's not a webinar, it's full participation. My contribution will be very, very less. It will be the main participant contribution. So looking forward to seeing you there. And then uh, um, let's see how it's going to work out. And tomorrow I'll be talking about the Z model. And till then, I would wish all the friends and colleagues in India uh, a very nice evening. And for those of you outside India, a great day ahead. And see you tomorrow, more or less the same time, on the topic of Z model, Z excellence model. Goodbye.